This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I want to talk to you. Friends talking nerdy.
This is the podcast making, public transit taking, kiss stealing, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun, Tim the Nerd, welcoming you to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy, part of the Deluxe Edition Network. Head to deluxeeditionnetwork.com to find out about all of the lovely shows on the Den. And seated next to me, we have the most electrifying professor in podcasting today, Professor Aubrey. How you doing?
I'm so good, Tim.
As we said last week, we have one hell of an episode here to talk about. Am I right?
I think so. I think it's a very good topic.
Same here. Like we mentioned last week, the topic for today's episode, our main event, is an article from Psychology Today called Adult Children of Polyamorous Parents, written by Elizabeth A. Sheff, PhD, CSE, and it says the polyamorous next door on Psychology Today. I don't know what that pertains to, but as always, the link to this article will be in the show description, so you'll be able to do a deep dive yourself. But we wanted to talk about some of the points that were made in this article. There were 3 primary reactions from adult children of polyamorous parents who came out. You know, as we've talked about before, monogamy is just not affordable in today's economy. So a lot of people are going and investigating and trying out the polyamorous lifestyle, and like us, have come to enjoy it.
Yeah. So it's definitely much more. So if you think about adult children, they've got to be like at least 20, right? So 20 years ago, 2004, seems like yesterday, but it was a long time ago. But anyway, back then, I knew people who were polyamorous, but I didn't know a lot of people who were polyamorous, or at least that I knew were polyamorous, even here in Portland.
You know, I'll put it this way. The first time I learned about polyamory was right here in Portland. I'm not saying Sacramento or Grand Rapids did not have polyamorous communities, but I was too straight-laced at that time to really know if there were or not. But yeah, my dipping my toe into the polyamory pool has come relatively recently. It's not even been a decade yet.
I know, but that seems like there's still a long time, even if it's not a decade.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like if it was 7 years, that would be a long time.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
How long's it been? He's counting.
7 years.
He's counting on his fingers. So, yeah. So that's a long time.
Okay, it's a long time. I'm a veteran now.
Yeah.
I'm a veteran of relationship wars. Now, the article here is part of a bigger series. So the professor here wanted to take a moment to kind of give a little summary before we dive into the bullet points here. And it's not going to be, a detailed, complete history of not only the person who wrote the article, but the scientist in question or anything like that. Just how we got to this point, in terms of how the researchers were able to come up with the 3 points we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to give a little bit of an introduction because we are just skipping to the 3 ways that adult children of polyamorous people usually feel. There was a study done about adult children of polyamorous people, and this article is talking about the results of that study. And so the first thing that they talk about is there are 3 ways that adult children feel about their polyamorous parents when they're adults.
Yes, because I could tell you from my own experience, having at least one of my kids so far knowing that I'm polyamorous in terms of their reaction, because kids, when they grow up, will have a certain image of you, and then suddenly coming with something like this will, make them go, at the very least. How about we dive into the bullet points? How about I dive into number one here?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, number one, cavalier. Some adult kids hear from their elder parents that they are polyamorous, and the kids are neither surprised nor dismayed because they don't really care either way. Sounds about right, is what one client's 25-year-old son responded to his dad when he mentioned his polyamorous relationships. Adult kids in this category are often quite busy with their own lives and not particularly focused on what their parents are doing. These adults who have little to no reactions to their parents' polyamory tend to be non-religious and somewhat socially liberal or libertarian. That last part is definitely not surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily even cavalier. It's just accepting.
Yeah, cavalier may not necessarily be the best word here because, yeah, it's like ultimately, it's like the reaction is, the parents tell the kid and the kid's like, oh, okay. And I don't know if, a reaction like that would necessarily be considered cavalier. Cavalier seems more dramatic.
Right, cavalier seems like you are selfish and don't care about what anybody else needs.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I guess it's like hearing that, a family member likes a particular pop artist or something like that. It's just, oh, and you move on. That doesn't mean you don't, that you dislike the person telling you this. It doesn't mean you disagree with their particular, in this case, their relationship choices, up or down. You just, oh, you're your own person. You can do your thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's probably how they want to be treated.
Ultimately, yeah. And I would think that the adult children that fall under this category, and the article does not go into specifics about the parents and how they are viewed by these kids, but I have to assume they probably have pretty good relationships with their parents too.
Yeah, if their parents are telling them this information, then I'd say yeah.
Well, I mean, as we're going to go on in some of the other bullet points too, they may not necessarily react in a positive way, but the fact that they are reacting as like, oh, okay, that type of deal, I still think that is still a very much a positive and shows that the parents have put the time in to talk to their kids about this and just be open about life. It's a good sign of good communication.
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts on that?
No, let's go on to the second one.
All right.
So the second one, the way that adult children feel when their parents come out, is celebratory. Other adult kids are excited and pleased about their parents' polyamorous relationships. In some social circles, polyamory is all the rage, and for an adult to have polyamorous parents can make them a rock star at dinner parties if the conversation turns to consensual non-monogamy or CNM. Not only does it offer cool cred to have poly parents, but it also contributes to elder parents' happiness and relationship satisfaction. Adults who want their parents to be happy and healthy with high levels of relationship satisfaction can celebrate their parents' expanded love.
I remember when my oldest found out I was polyamorous, like his reaction, it wasn't like, oh my God, or anything like that. It was more like along the lines of, oh, I think it was again a situation to where, like I said, growing up with me, I was a lot more straight-laced during his childhood. So for me to be polyamorous was just like, whoa, good, good job. And then I found out he was as well. So yeah, I mean, we didn't throw a party or anything like that, or in the article here, break out some white wine and
Do a spritzer.
have us, yeah, Bartles and James, baby, the '80s reference for you. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
but that is also another positive I can see. Now, having said that, I think the article does hint that maybe there are people that, view it as a status symbol type of thing in particular neighborhoods. And I can imagine that being more prevalent in a place like Portland, Oregon, compared to a Duluth, Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
But that too could also be a sign of, them not necessarily accepting it, but knowing that bringing it out could be a social benefit for them. Yeah, look at me.
I don't know that people are generally that conniving, though.
Uh, Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, I'm not.
You'd have to be a really weird social climber to do that.
Yeah, I am not trying to imply that, a majority of people would be that cynical as to make sure every step that they have in life is a political move or something like that. Just think that maybe there are some. I don't know. But again, I'm not the scientist. I did not do the study, so I could just be pulling stuff out of my ass. Any other thoughts on celebratory?
No, I mean, I think it's like that's what I would hope I would be.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, you have weird relationships with your parents. I mean, in the best of terms, you will transfer from that child to parent to adult to parent situation smoothly, and you won't have a situation where the parent is still trying to, be the mother or be the father when the person in question is 35.
Did that happen in your life?
My mother was like that, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that always, like I said, the whole, when I went to her house one day, this was just shortly after I got married, I went to her place, walked in and said something about a fucking driver or something like that, and just said the word fuck, and then, my mother, out of nowhere, just yells at the top of her lungs, "You don't swear in my fucking house," with no sense of irony or anything like that. And at that point, I turned around and left.
forever? Or
No, not forever, just for that day, because, fuck that,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because there was a proper way to say that, in a respectful way or something like that, because it wasn't like I was coming in, fuck you, bitch, or anything like that. It was just me throwing out a curse word for, I believe, a bad driver that was out there or something like that. But, you're in other people's homes, and if they don't want you using swear words, you do have to respect that, but you can relay that in a respectful manner.
Yeah.
I don't think that's out of line.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I mean, it to me, that would be no different than, going to someone's house and they prefer you to take off your shoes before you come in.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, it may not be something you necessarily do at your own place, but it's their home. Maybe they have white carpet. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who are shoeless households.
Yeah, and I mean, we're generally a shoeless household here, but I think if we get home from work or being out of the house or whatever, we will come in and walk around with our shoes on for a bit, maybe. But yeah, I do like my little piggies out wiggling around.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a comfort thing though for me rather than I don't want to walk on my floors with shoes on.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the thing. And I'm thinking back now to that Curb Your Enthusiasm episode.
Oh, right.
Yeah, where Larry David shows up and refuses to take off his shoes, and hilarity ensues.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the people get glass in their feet.
Yeah, what an episode. There's only so many episodes in a row of that show I can watch before I just have to stop, because it stops becoming a comedy after a while, and once you start agreeing with some of his choices, it's like, no, I gotta stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we go on to the last point?
Yes, we should.
All right, the last point here, we have done something special for you folks. The last bullet point here has 6 paragraphs in the article, and it's a good article. We strongly encourage you to head to our show description and tap on the link to read the article for yourself. That's the big reason why, we read these articles in the first place. We find value in them and want to relay that to you. But we're also not a dictation service. We're not an articles on tape service. We are here to talk about the main points. So what I did thanks to AI, thanks to ChatGPT, I copied and pasted the 6 paragraphs in ChatGPT and said, summarize these 6 paragraphs in 2 paragraphs. And it did.
Yes, it did.
And we are going to read you those 2 paragraphs now. But like I said, strongly urge you to go to the show description, tap on the article, read the article for yourself. This is not the author's words, it is a summary of the author's words. Polyamorous and consensual non-monogamous CNM individuals, like other sex and gender minorities, often face unjust assumptions that they lack boundaries, a stereotype historically used against LGBTQ plus people, feminist, and BIPOC communities. Research shows that such concerns are unfounded, indicating that these individuals maintain boundaries similar to those in monogamous relationships. The well-being of a family is more influenced by interpersonal treatment rather than the nature of adult relationships within it. Misconceptions persist, with some confusing CNM with cheating, despite significant differences in negotiation and transparency that characterize CNM relationships, which generally reduce the risk of sexually transmitted infections and emotional harm associated with infidelity. Adult children of polyamorous parents can have varied and complex reactions. Some may erroneously equate CNM with cheating, while others might harbor resentment if CNM led to parental divorce. In extreme cases, this might result in estranged relationships, such as banning a polyamorous parent from seeing grandchildren. Some adult children worry about how their own parents will perceive their family's relational style. Concealing polyamorous relationships during significant life events such as weddings can lead to emotional distress and difficult decisions about whose comfort is prioritized. While some families manage by presenting additional partners as friends, this often comes at the cost of erasing meaningful relationships from key events. And that's one thing I don't think I've really considered when it comes to polyamory, is the fact that it is a minority. I mean, it's in Portland, Oregon, it seems to be the majority, but
It's not, though.
but you get my point, though. I mean, there are a lot more here than there are in Duluth, Minnesota.
Right, but there are a lot more monogamous couples than there are polyamorous relationships.
Yeah. And with it essentially becoming a lot more in the public eye, let's say. I mean, I'm sure it's been there for years and years and years and years. I'm not trying to imply it as a brand new thing, of course, but being that it's now more out in the open and whatnot, I can see where kids would have that reaction, I guess. And you got to think too, let's say we're talking adult kids of parents who, when those adult kids were children, brought them to church. It doesn't even have to be on a regular every week basis. Maybe they went Easter and Christmas, but they still have those religious beliefs involved. Or let's say we are talking about, kids that went conservative,
Right. Yeah, I mean, that can happen.
It can,
And especially in reaction to what they perceive as too liberal. Like they're ashamed of their parents' liberality when they're growing up, and so they go the opposite direction.
yeah. And also trying to imply that being polyamorous or consensually non-monogamous is the same as cheating is just not true. And yet that misconception is still out there. I mean, you get a lot of people that will say that polyamorous people are just looking for that, free ride to, sex with multiple people. And that is not generally the case. I mean, there are people that do like to have, notches on their bedposts. I'm not denying that there aren't, but even then, that doesn't necessarily mean that, someone with 100 notches on their bedpost or more is not having, meaningful relationships with those people in ways that are comfortable for them. It could be somebody that, maybe they meet to have coffee once a month and have sex. Who knows?
In the polyamorous community, there is some discussion about whether non-monogamy generally is different from polyamory, which is different from ethical non-monogamy. And swingers, like what are all these different relationship forms, and people perceive there to be differences. And so polyamory is known as the multiple relationships. So you don't have just one relationship and then people you hook up. Now, you could have like a long-term friend with benefits and that kind of friend relationship, and that is a hallmark of a polyamorous relationship. But it's like people who go out and just meet people for sex and have sex with multiple people, that would be considered ethical non-monogamy rather than polyamory.
I would agree to a point. I mean, to me, polyamory has always been about the types of, relationships that you create, but that doesn't mean it's going to be like a, nesting partner type of relationship. It could be just someone who becomes a really good friend that you occasionally fuck, I'd put it bluntly. But there has to be a focus on that relationship and not just on the physical act of getting together. To me, that would be more the ethical non-monogamy thing. And that is good. That is perfectly fine as well. But,
and I'm getting it wrong. It's like ethical non-monogamy is the umbrella term for all the types of multiple partner relationship forms, including polyamory and swinging. And those are the two that are most often confused.
I'm thinking back to that early 80s country pop song, I think, by John Anderson, I think the guy's name was, and they'll be swinging.
Oh, I know that song. Oh my God, that song. Stop doing that. That is not okay.
Were you harmed with that song?
I just had to listen to it all the time growing up in the South.
Oh, man.
In a countrified place.
Okay.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Dylan.
And I'm Cameron.
And we're the hosts of Barstool Film School, a conversational comedy podcast about the very best bar movies. You know, the ones that are like perfect to watch when you're hanging out in a bar with friends. Now, I'm a writer and a film school washout.
And I'm a bar owner.
So we ought to know what we're talking about.
You would hope.
Tune in every other week, wherever you get your pods, as we take on a new flick.
And we will pair those flicks with some cocktails.
To see if they pass the bar. Now, what do you say, Cam? Shall we pour ourselves another round?
Let's do it.
All right.
Professor Aubrey has a package in her hands that we have to say is quite delicious.
It is, Tim. It's Brazil from Coffee Bros. An amazing coffee with notes of cocoa and cherry candy.
Nice.
Delicious.
Indeed it was. Like you and I, we both drink coffee in very different ways. I need it, 9,000 degrees hot. And me, I make my coffee and then put in as many ice cubes as I can. I'm like the guy from Clerks, what am I supposed to drink this coffee hot? Type of guy. But you tried it your way, I tried it my way, and we both really enjoyed the flavor of this particular flavor of coffee.
Absolutely. It is a relatively new roastery in New York, New York. Those little town blues.
Yep.
Taking the Coffee Bros away.
Exactly.
Anyway, they're relatively new. They've been roasting since 2019.
Yes, but they do have great connections around the world in the coffee growing areas to be able to get the best beans, to be able to give their customers the best product. And you, our friends at home, if you go to coffeebros.com and you order your own batch of this coffee or any other of the delicious brands of coffee that they have on their website, in the promo code spot, you put FTN10, we're going to be able to save you 10%.
That's right. 10%. It's going to be like $1.50. It's going to be awesome.
But that's what friends are for.
That's what friends are for.
That's right.
$1.50 when you need it.
Exactly. I mean, you won't be able to get on the city bus, but you will be able to save some money to be able to get some wonderful coffee. Again, head to coffeebros.com and in the promo code box, put in FTN10 and you will be able to have some delicious coffee.
Yep.
Drink away, people. All right, before we wrap things up here, you are excited for something that you're going to be doing this weekend. Now, as we record this, the episode that we are recording now is going to be released about 1 month or so as we record. But this is going to be essentially the start of your summer camping season. Am I correct?
You are correct. I did a little camp in April, but I am getting ready for the Oregon Country Fair, which is, I'll be camping there for almost 2 weeks at the beginning of July and a little bit of the end of June. And so what I'm doing this weekend is I'm not spending the night there. I'm just going down in the morning on Saturday and trying to remove some blackberry brambles from my camping spot.
Yes, because I can imagine, leaving them there and then trying to put a tent up and sleeping on it would not be the most comfortable thing.
No, and the floor of your tent would be eaten up. You would be eaten up. It would be awful.
Yes, but
Not comfy cozy at all.
like I can only imagine. But I know you are excited for this because of, like I mentioned, the fact that it's going to be the start of your summer camping season.
Right. Exactly. So I have that and then a couple of other short campouts and then Burning Man, of course, in August.
Yep. But the beauty of what we're doing now is, we have been responsible podcasters, people. We've recorded a number of episodes in advance to be able to have weekly meetings with our friends at Friends Talking Nerdy. So there will be no interruption while the professor is out camping, but we will have some wonderful stories when she gets back.
That's right.
Now, what is the one thing with the Oregon Country Fair this year that you are most excited about experiencing?
Well, I'd have to say that is going to be my job when I'm there, which is going to be help doing some carpentry and clean up of messy, like structures that are full of leaves and spiders that need to be cleaned out after the winter.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be great to be part of that transformation of what the fair looks like, the fair site looks like during the off season and how beautiful it is during the fair.
Yes, so if you in our listening audience, one of our friends out there, happens to go to the Oregon Country Fair this year, remember Professor Aubrey helped contribute to what you will experience.
Yeah. A very small amount.
Don't discount that amount though. I mean, it's like you're one of many, many, many people that are going to be there, helping out. But
Right.
but that's the beauty of collaborative efforts. It's like with the podcasting. Like I could not do this alone. I mean, if you go back in the archive, listen to the few episodes I did alone. I cannot do this alone.
I think I remember listening to one of those.
Yeah, I kept them short, but I'm just like, what do I say? What do I say?
Yeah, you'd actually have to plan out something.
Or have a script, but I'm not a script type of person. But I also have to think. Like one podcast I generally listen to pretty often is Countdown with Keith Olbermann, and he's commenting on news of the day, and he doesn't have the time or the luxury of what shall I write here and spend 6 months writing something about a current news topic. He has to be boom, 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 and stuff. I have to start thinking of my writing more in that matter instead of the pondering, drinking a cup of coffee while the computer sits dormant.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the eternal struggle, folks, the eternal struggle. But anyway, I'm excited that you're going to be able to have these experiences this year once again.
Me too. The other thing I'm really excited about experiencing is the place called the Ritz, which is a shower and sauna, open air, made of wood, beautiful art, two giant saunas, lots of showers. And that's where you can go and do your shower every day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reminds me of that place you brought me to down south of here, that open-aired sauna camp.
It was a hot tub.
Hot tub camp, yeah, like how we got into like separate hot tubs like outside, and then like a family of deer walked by. I was like, what the hell? I never thought that would happen to me, but here we are.
Thinking back, I can't believe you did that. I mean, we camped out.
Yeah, I can be rustic. I mean, like I said, I'm first generation city boy here. So technically, I have country in my blood.
Yeah, I mean that it was very sort of out there, and now that I know you better, I know that you're a much more city person.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I dislike time in the country. But I think of that Gary Shandling bit about, oh yeah, Jews like to go camping. We just like to have a cater. Yeah, and yeah, I'm not Jewish, but you get my point.
Not really.
Well, like me going out there, like, how's my iPad gonna work? Can I play the PS4? Oh my goodness.
Right.
Yeah.
So like you need electricity.
A connection to the city, some way. Having said that, though, I would definitely love a chance to camp again.
Oh yeah?
That was definitely fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can go camping sometime.
Yeah. We'll make that a live episode. How about that?
Nice. We could do that.
Live on YouTube. Yeah, promote our YouTube traffic. But anyway, got some news here. An update on a story that we talked about last week here. And it's about our friend, Mr. Crowy McCrowface.
Yeah, sad news.
I discovered him at work, and I initially thought he was dead, but he started moving, and my manager was there at the particular time and tried to help corral the bird into a more open area in the closed off yard. The dogs would not have been anywhere near it. So yeah, people aren't cruel, but we were trying to get it just away from that little area, because sometimes we have to have like the garage door area open, and dogs will go in and out.
Right.
So we wanted to keep it protected. So they weren't able to do that, but no dogs were safe. The next day I show up, and that particular crow was on the ledge. Initially, the day before, it was on the ground. So, initially I thought maybe it hurt its wing or something like that, but apparently it didn't. It had enough strength to fly, but it was still not really avoiding human contact, and that's not a good sign in a wild animal.
No.
Yeah. In fact, when I was eating my lunch out there, it didn't like walk up to me, but it walked on the ledge, just right directly in front of me at the table where I was sitting. There's a table and chairs out there and whatnot, and it was really slow walking and really slow back. And I was able to get a piece of bread from the sandwich I brought from home responsibly, and put it on the ledge. When it had walked a significant distance away, I didn't like try to, come here, buddy, type of deal, because they're wild animals. They're not your friends, but you can still be nice to them, and put the piece of bread out there, and the crow ended up eating it at a later time.
Nice.
But it ate the bread, and was able to fly into the yard area that is not used at the doggy daycare I work at. But the day after that, they did discover that it passed away.
Yeah, so sad, so sad. Even just a crow dying. Maybe that's why, I told you that when I was driving yesterday to breakfast with someone, I just thought about Sherman, and I just got really upset. Like when Sherman first died, like how I felt then. And it was so weird. And I was just weeping in my car as I was driving. And I was just like, I have to stop thinking about this. And so I started thinking about something else. And it was fine. But it's like, I feel really more empathetic towards animals than humans.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get that feeling as well. I don't call myself a misanthropic recluse for nothing, folks, but I definitely get that sentiment, because even though they're animals, they have emotions, they have brains, they think. And, I would like to think that while that crow is probably scared out of its mind and probably in a lot of pain or something like that, at the very least, it could think, that human better not touch me, but it's okay. Num 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 while I eat the bread.
Yeah.
Showing an act of kindness to a creature that needs help, you do that. One thing I did miss though was the crow funeral. And, when I told you about that initially, you thought, oh, you at work, had a little funeral for the crow. No, it is an actual a term about what crows do, because while they are a predator to some animals, they are also prey to a lot more. And generally, what will happen is that if there is a crow that's passed away and another one's flying and sees it, it will stop, make a call, and a bunch of other crows will show up as well, because what they're doing is trying to see if what could have caused it, who the predator is in this particular case. And luckily, it sounds like the people at my work did the right thing and didn't really initially go out and touch that crow when the other crows were there,
Oh,
because crows do have the tendency to hold a grudge.
right?
Yeah, and it's not like Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. I'm not or that one real life story about a tiger in Russia, in Siberia, that was shot by this hunter, and then the hunter went home. But the tiger followed that hunter for 3 days in its home and ended up killing the guy who shot him.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So animals can hold grudges. And like with a crow being pissed off at you, it'd just be a lot of angry bird calls at you. And maybe they would get just a little close and, do something like that. But I'm not trying to say it would be on the level of like Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. But also you want to respect that, so yeah, I would say to anybody out there, if you have a crow that ends up, passing away, like in your yard, for instance, and you see other crows, don't mess with it just yet, or call, a professional to come take care of it and let them be the ones to get all the hate,
Yeah.
but yeah, just be kind to animals. You can be kind to not only, the animals that you allow to live in your home, but you can be kind to the animals that are in your neighborhood as well, because even though you may live in the city, there's still wildlife out there. And, you want to be smart. You want to be responsible. You don't want to be the sole source of food for like a squirrel or a sparrow or something like that. But leaving out a snack every now and then, not a bad thing at all. Try to end on a positive note there, even though we had some sad news to deliver. Is there anything else you want to tell our friends at home before we wrap things up?
Well, we could tell a little kitty update if we want to.
Ooh, what update would you want to
Well,
tell us?
so the kitties have just had their 1 year anniversary being here at the Fives, and it's been wonderful having them, and they just get more and more delightful. And right now, Mimsy has a favorite toy, which is a hedgehog, and she just puts it in her mouth and takes it around the house like it's a mouse, and she'll play with it, like throw it up in the air. It's really cute.
And that's a toy that you purchased for her and gave to her.
Yes.
Yeah, they are both very different when it comes to their level of play. Annie's more of the type that responds to toys on strings or ropes or something like that, and bags. Mimsy is more of the individual thing, because she had a cob of corn toy that she had when she lived with my son, that she still plays with on occasion. But Mr. Hedgehog, that's hers.
Mm-hmm.
Like Annie won't even
Touch it. No, she never touches it.
Yeah, Annie's smart that way.
Yeah.
And I did take a perfect picture of them the other day.
Yeah, beautiful picture.
Yeah, it was Mimsy just sitting there looking all regal, and then looking straight at the picture to her left, in a blur coming at the camera is Annie.
Yeah, her head is just complete blur.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never had a picture capture an animal's personalities that perfectly that I took.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was really good.
yeah. But those are our cats, and I'm sure we'll have more stories about their adventures as we roll along here. But for the most electrifying professor in podcasting today, each Monday we'll have something in this podcast space to entertain your ear holes. Until we meet again, we bid you adieu.
Farewell. Godspeed.
Hell yeah. Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy
On YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Goodbye, darling.